In a world of constant consumption, it can be overwhelming to our nervous systems and our spirit. Let's navigate the world together with topics to help inspire you, help you grow, help you find the magic that is you, and help you move into an active role of your soul's experience. Taking you from passenger to the driver's seat, this is Conscious Consumption. Welcome back to Conscious Consumption. I am your host, Serena. So if you are new here, well, welcome, welcome, welcome. These episodes are released monthly every third Friday so that you know when to expect them. So if you want to go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button, that will ensure that you get the latest episodes as they are released. On YouTube, there's a specific playlist for Conscious Consumption. Otherwise, for Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple, you could just follow and you'll be able to get all the latest episodes from everybody that's on Awakening Airwaves. And there are some wonderful, beautiful shows on here. So check them all out. I want to share a little bit with you guys before we dive into today's episode. I want to share about the idea of this particular show, the theme of the show, kind of the background a little bit, if you will. So I need to first kind of back up a couple years ago, if you don't mind. So 2 years ago, I started getting some really strong signs that it was time to do a podcast. At the time, this was very daunting for me because a couple different reasons. But one is I am not a super techie girl. And when I say that, I could be comfortable with technology if someone shows me the reins of how to operate a program or system or, whatever it is. But I don't always interact that well with technology. Things seem to always just not work quite right. And so I was like, I don't know. So I started to kind of dive into what would I need to set up a podcast. And I felt myself just really going deeper and deeper down a rabbit hole of what programs, what microphone, what this, what that, and just really kind of finding myself in this stuck placement. Really what I was doing for myself is I was freezing. I wasn't moving forward. So needless to say, nothing happened with that because I stayed in that freeze state. And then fast forward to earlier this year, 2025, and I had started praying to Source that I be able to support others in a way that I'm able to utilize my holistic and spiritual gifts and experience and knowledge. And I wanted to really help others. And I didn't know what that looked like. And it's actually quite funny because a lot of times I think when things show up at our door, it could look completely different than what we're thinking. I had kind of what I was thinking in the background might happen. And what did happen was something completely different. So I thought it was beautiful. And I was just at the point in my life where I was like, I'm saying yes to the universe on stuff. I'm not playing scared. I'm going to say yes because I really want this. And now is the time. Now is my time to go out and be with others and help and be able to share and all these things I'm really excited about. So about 2 months of praying that prayer, I get a phone call. And this phone call was from Yolanda, who started the Awakening Airwaves, this beautiful platform, and for all of us practitioners and everything. And everything that was going on at that time with with the Awakening Airwaves and with some of the other stuff was just perfect alignment. And it really did feel like, okay, now is the time. This is the time to do this. So this podcast is how it came into fruition, was through that. And when I was looking at a theme for the show, because there were a lot of different directions that I had thought about, one of the things that kept coming up for me was how we consume so much in society. And I'm not just talking about, material things, food, clothing, whatever. I'm talking about in general, everything. We are constantly in this receiving mode. And I was thinking about, well, how do we go from that to a creating state? And how do we live more mindfully, consuming consciously? Really taking it from, like I say in the intro, taking your soul experience from being in that passenger, that backseat, whatever role, to being an active participant and being the driver, really driving your soul experience to where you want to go. And this could even be in these small ways of, your daily spiritual practice, putting things into action for you that will have that ripple effect out to the world and out to others. So the concept of the show is based around how could we be more mindful in our actions with things that we share and with things that we're doing and things that we're taking in, and how could we create from that point? So whatever the topics are that we discuss on this, I'll always have little tips and tricks and applications and things that we could do to grow from it. And that was really important to me because early on in my spiritual development on my journey, I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to about these things. I didn't have family or friends. I didn't have anyone in the spiritual community that I was connecting with, that I was able to bounce ideas off of or share or ask questions. So I'm really excited to be a part of this and help build. And community is huge to me. And I'm not a gatekeeper, guys. I love sharing and I love being able to talk with others and explore topics. So I'm really excited for you to be here. I'm really excited for us to dive into things together and dive into topics. And today's topic, whew, yeah, it's a hot one, guys. So buckle up. So today's topic, we're going to be discussing AI. Oh boy. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about this because this is something that is coming up a lot um, for like my different groups that I belong in, my training groups, just a lot of discussions around it. And I really see how things are growing at such a rapid rate right now that I want to discuss AI, and specifically AI around religion and spirituality and healing, and what that means and how is it being utilized currently. What's the direction that it might be going? How could we use it, if at all? If it makes sense to, does it make sense to? So I wanted to kind of dive into that area of it. So before we do that, I think it's really important that we discuss AI and what it is. And you could be like, yeah, well, it's artificial intelligence. I know that. But I was not aware, and maybe you might not be aware, that there are actually different subcategories of AI. There are different degrees, if you will, levels, right, of the intelligence level. So first, we start off with something by the name of narrow or weak AI. Narrow or weak AI would be something that has a very specific, specialized job. Okay. It's a tool. It only does one thing. And you could think of this as being your GPS. You could think of this as, Netflix. So Netflix, the recommendation list, that would be a specialized tool that can only do one thing. That's a narrow or weak AI category. And side note, guys, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like my Netflix AI is like the moldy lemon of the AI. Like, I don't understand. Like, it never gets stuff right. I'm like, what is going on here? I would never watch this. So it's just kind of interesting. Anyways, so that's category one. We have category two, and we move on down to something like the chat AIs. When we discuss chat AIs, these are going to be the conversation platforms that you're most familiar with, probably. These are going to be things like, I'm not going to name them all, but just a couple, but Gemini, ChatGPT, you have the ChatGPT 4, these different levels and stuff. And Claude's another big one that a lot of people know. These are going to be the conversation-based platforms where they work off of us feeding them information through the language we're using. And I'm not talking about English or, whatever. I'm talking about our tone of our language, how we're speaking, the questions that we're asking. It's kind of like analyzing us and kind of picking us apart to return information. And then any photos, anything that we're feeding it, basically. And these platforms work based off of programming. And I think that's very important to remember, that these platforms are not working independently. They're built off of the program of whatever these engineers created and the coding and everything else. And they're only going to be ever as strong as that. Okay. Key thing to remember, because you are seeing these pop up as spiritual coaches. Okay. And other things. And we're going to get into that. And we're going to discuss that. And we're going to discuss how this could affect things and why you might or might not want to integrate this as part of your practice. So that is category 2. Category 3 is going to be something called general AI, which is AGI. And this would be something that has, let's see, this AI could be described as if you took any human with a PhD level in any category, so PhD in any category, and it's like taking that a step further, okay? Step beyond. And AGI has emotional intelligence and it has the creation point. So it's able to create, it's able to receive. There's a lot of different things going on. It's like a multifaceted, AI. It's capable so much more than the conversation-based AI. Now, this AI wasn't out until just recently. If you've heard of Grok 4, this is what Grok 4 is. AGI is Grok 4. Grok 4 is AGI. But it was released July 9th. And I wanted to point that out because earlier this year, there were articles stating from researchers and scientists they didn't anticipate or expect any AGI to be released or be created for like another couple of years. They weren't anticipating until 2027. And here we are. And earlier in July, we had this release of Grok 4. And so you could see how things are moving at a very, very fast pace right now with AI. And I don't think it's going anywhere, guys. I think that right now it's a matter of us really learning what we can about it, understanding it, and using our own discernment. And I want to point that out. So important. This is where it really becomes a vital role for us as humans to really understand ourselves, to tap into our intuition, that inner knowing, our inner magic, all of that, and use our own discernment with these things. Because I definitely think that there is a role that we could use with AI as a supportive tool. And we're going to get into that as well. So the other thing to mention for category 4 is something called ASI. This is super intelligent AI, and this would be described as super intelligent AI would be basically an AI that is beyond anything that we could kind of put into our minds as far as intellectually right now, beyond our limitations, if that makes sense. So it's going far, far, far beyond what is out there for AGI. Remember, AGI is PhD level in any category. So now we're talking about something that's far beyond that with the super intelligence. And that does not exist yet. However, like we talked about, things are moving at a rapid level. We don't know at what point that will be released and exist for us. So now that we have those 4 categories down, I want to share some things about AI. So backing up to the conversation AI, one thing I want to share is that there is a humanoid robot that's a chat-based AI that they created in Australia, and they are using in senior care homes. I want to share this because they're using it for empathy. And if you remember what I said, the AI for the conversation-based ones, these are going to be based off of the programming, right? So it's not the same as that human exchange. It's not the same as the heart to heart, which to me, like when I read this, I do understand what they were going for having something like this to provide, some care to elderly people in these senior care homes. However, for me, it really drew attention to the gap of human contact and connection that we need in these care homes. And also the other area that I went, and I will be a little biased on this because I love dogs, but I was like, well, also there's, dogs that have these jobs. You see all the time, like working dogs for PTSD or, social companions or whatever, like between this and humans, why wouldn't we consider this as the thing instead of, bringing in a robot type thing that, is being tasked? It's given a job. Okay. So just something that I was kind of pondering there. I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on that. So the other direction that I want to kind of go with this to kind of break down is I want to do a little bit of a discussion on, or share, I should say, about kind of what we're seeing right now with things that are coming up with AI around religious pieces, as far as like scriptures, as far as the direction that things are going, and then as far as spirituality. So we're going to start to get into that now. So for AI and religion, I want to share a little something. There is a gentleman by the name of Greg Braden. He is an author, an educator, and a researcher. He kind of combines like science and spirituality. And he has a YouTube channel as well. And I saw a YouTube video of his recently when I was doing some of this research around AI. And he had on a video and he was discussing about somebody by the name of Yuval Noah Harari. And Yuval is a historian and author, and he is an agenda contributor and thought leader for WEF. And what that means is that he's basically worked many events for WEF as a speaker, a public speaker there. And WEF, for those of you that don't know, that's a World Economic Forum. And there's an interview with him from 2023 that Greg Braden talked about on his show, where Yuval was discussing AI at the Science Commission, and he was discussing how AI could be used to rewrite biblical texts. AI could be used to, and I quote, in a few years, there might be religions that are actually correct. And I was like, whoa. So I kind of was like, hold on. Was that really what he said? Or is this being paraphrased? Or, and so I had to, of course, kind of go on the hunt for this video and listen to it myself and watch the whole thing to kind of, or watch that portion of it to see, if that is indeed what he said. And it is. Now, I want to ask the question of, if things went this way, what could be the potential concerns with this? And we are discussing religion right now. So what could be the potential concerns? I think one thing is, it could potentially, if we have AI rewriting and forming religion to, quote, get it correct, we're taking choice away from people. We're basically turning people into sheep. We're taking the role away from our selves in society to be able to contemplate things and work with, that feeling of what resonates and what doesn't, and make the decisions and the choices that are right for us. I don't think that we should ever be leaning on anything externally or anyone externally for that kind of stuff. I think that needs to come from within. So I think that we're going to see a lot more topics and things like this come up in the future as AI is being adopted more into our regular society, whether it's, work, because we're seeing it in the medical field, or whether it's these things like the spiritual coaches. So we're going to see a lot of different topics come up. One of the other things that I want to share is around AI and the Torah. And for those of you that aren't familiar, so when I say Torah, if you want to look it up, it's that would be great too. But we're talking about now a religious text, ancient text that is in Hebrew. And I want to point that out because there is this story, long history story with this text of how there's hidden messages, hidden names, hidden words, and like tellings of the future, of the direction that we're going to go, and all these things within this Torah. And people have used it through like dissecting through different pattern reads, if you will. So there's something called ELS, and all that is equidistant letter sequence. and basically applying these patterns to like dissect the language, and then they're able to figure out that there's these hidden messages, hidden codes and stuff within the Torah. Now, my question with this is, if this is something that we already know about, would this be an area that would be helpful to apply AI? Because once AGI, we're able to apply AGI to this, would it be helpful to have it take things a step further, really like go through it, and pick apart? Maybe there would be even more that it could dive into that we're not able to really perceive or understand yet, or be able to even get to through our own intelligence level, or through our own ways that we've applied knowledge and applied pattern techniques and so forth. So would this matter if it did? If we did find out other hidden truths or hidden messages, or whatever. So as something to just share there and contemplate. The other thing is, AI is currently being introduced in religion in some areas that I found very interesting. The obvious one being translating. Great. That's beautiful to offer that, to have that go out and people be able to understand and be able to read, or be able to, receive from, any language, any area in the world. The one that really surprised me is I was seeing that they are offering AI assistants on various church websites. And these are essentially AI assistants that offer guidance, rituals, recommendations for spiritual scripture, religious scripture, or prayer. And then the other one is to answer faith-based questions and provide daily prayers. And I thought that was really interesting. I was like, wow, it's interesting that AI is being applied in this format in, some different churches and different religious pieces. So that is something that we are already seeing. Where could it go potentially? Well, we already discussed about what Yuval had said. So it wouldn't be a far stretch to then say we could definitely see some AI religions pop up, right? I know when I was kind of on the search and kind of diving into this area to do research on the AI piece, I did find some interesting things around people that are already trying to create a religion out of with AI using ChatGPT and stuff, which I thought was wow. So it was just interesting. I was like, huh. But we also might potentially see online congregations. And we definitely saw this during COVID, right? But what I'm talking about is online congregations that are led by AI. So where you don't have a human in the driver's seat, you're using AI to be in the driver's seat and lead where that discussion goes, where the topics are, what's discussed and all that. As somebody that has worked with energy and been on both sides of the exchange, I definitely see the value in, like we don't have to be face to face. I understand that because, like I said, working with energy, I absolutely get it. We do distant healing. We're able to receive, and I 100% understand being able to have things be available for people, like when we were talking about the online congregations. My thing is, and I'm talking about energy there, right? Obviously, that's a little different than church, but I'm just saying that we don't have to be face to face to have a very strong experience, to have a very powerful experience. But by having AI in the driver's seat, I feel like we really are kind of taking away from ourselves as far as the experience. We might be missing a very valuable piece of the puzzle, and that's connection. That's connection with each other. It might be creating even more of a separation. And again, we're talking religion, but this goes for anything. If you put AI in the driver's seat of any group, I think that it's really important to have that human connection piece, because I think that when we have that, that's when we have these different experiences that come up for us. You know, the self-reflection pieces, the triggers, the, mirroring, like all these different things. And that's really important to the process too. So we talked about AI being in these different, religious aspects of the role. What about AI and spirituality? Well, I want to share a few things because right now, AI, there are some apps that AI is being utilized in, and I want to name a few. So we have guided meditations with custom voices. Great. Don't see anything wrong there. That's fine. I still prefer having somebody actually provide the guided meditation. I don't really necessarily want AI, but that's just me personally. There are also friend bots and companion AIs, and there's an app called Replica, and Replica allows you to create your own virtual friend or mentor. This is also where you might see a spiritual companion be created. So that is one way. You're seeing AI gurus and consciousness coaches, and that's popping up through some various apps as well. And then tarot reading and astrology charts. And I wanted to stop and pause here for a minute because when I was reading this, I wanted to share a couple of things about this. As someone that provides card readings, intuitive card readings and such, I want to share from that aspect regarding the tarot readings. But then I also want to share on the end of the astrology readings. I recently had an astrology reading a couple months back, and I want to share how this would differ if I were to use an AI app versus an actual live person. So my experience went far beyond just the natal chart reading, okay? Because my experience was blended with the natal chart breakdown, the targeted dates of success with the areas of interest, but then also that human bonding connection as we discuss similarities in our chart and different things that were coming up for me in my chart, but also things that this person had also shared that she experienced in her life with somebody that had a similar chart. And so we had that that we got to share. And then not to mention the incredible storytelling that this person had with all the ancient mythological gods and how that tied into my chart. And then she was extremely intuitive. And that's something that you're not going to get from an app. Like, sure, I might get the natal chart breakdown. I might get the targeted dates, but I'm missing that human connection, those other pieces that created such a beautiful experience, right? And I really think that that's important to share, which shout out to Astrology with Erin, by the way. The tarot and oracle reading apps I want to also share about because as someone that does, reads, when I saw this, I was like, I don't like this. And here's why. Because you could set up an app and have it, spit out the card information or whatever. And I've seen these online before and, whatever. But part of reading for somebody, like when you have somebody sitting for you and you're doing a read for them, is you are reading the cards intuitively and you're reading the energy. There's a lot going on. So it's not just what comes up on the card and the meaning behind that card, but it's anything that's coming up for you when you're seeing that card and that is, coming across when you're using those psychic gifts, those spiritual gifts. And you're going to be missing out on that if you're using the app. So I personally would say that working with people, with these practitioners, with astrologers, with the tarot and oracle card readers, with the spiritual coaches, and the list goes on, light workers, all of that, they need to play a vital role in this practice still. It's not eliminate and then go to AI because you're really going to be missing out on a lot. Your growth is not going to expand where it needs to. So just something to share there. Now, I want to also share about from the perspective too of, when we are in a healing and spiritual journey, which, by the way, for those of you that are on the path that start off with one, whether you start off with healing or whether you start off, spiritual journey, you will quickly find out that they become one and the same, because when you are on a spiritual journey, you will find out as you start to evolve that there is healing that you have to do, and you'll start having things come up for you. And then when you are on a healing journey, as you start to heal, you will find that that actually taps into other things for you. It'll start to expand things in an area of your own soul gifts. And you'll start to kind of open up there, and you might have your spirituality kind of grow and open there. So they quickly become kind of one and the same. And depending on your beliefs with everything, the other role with having these people in your life is really to look at from the soul level too. And what I mean by that is, I really truly believe that there are people that we come here, that we cross paths with for reasons, that we're meant to have them expand us in some way, or we're meant to have these experiences where it brings up something within us, triggering us, so that we could then look at it and go, okay, why is this happening? Why am I having this experience here? And it can help us kind of shine a light on whatever that is and look at it, and then explore the healing for that thing, whatever that is. I really believe in our paths coming together, that there are people that come here with us, whether it's our soul families or, just people that we sign, that we all come here together, our soul contracts, whatever we agreed upon before coming into this particular human timeline experience. There are certain people that we're meant to merge and have unions with. There are certain people that we're meant to have these experiences with. And so I really think that it's really important to continue that on. Now, with all of that being said, I do absolutely think that there is a way to use AI as a supportive tool for healing or spirituality. I think that there is a way to use it in a positive light, as far as something that could accompany our practice, accompany our spiritual or healing practice. And it's not going to be the be all. Do you know what I mean? We don't want it to be the one and only thing that we go to. We want to have it be the thing that we go, okay, well, this is, something that I'm feeding it. Okay, I'm going to use it to inspire me to, grow in this area, or inspire me to, whatever. So I want to share a little bit about that. So I decided to test AI for some spiritual growth and magical practices. And before I get into these, I just want to highlight a couple of things again. So backing up, I used a chat AI. Okay. So if you remember a chat AI, there's many different forms out there, many different applications of this. But those were the ones I mentioned, like the Chat GPT, the Gemini, Claude. And then there's another one that I'm actually going to discuss a little bit. But remember, now those are programmed. So they're only ever going to be as good as the programming, the sources, the information that it's pulling from. It's learning from you, what you're doing with that bot, as far as the information you're feeding it, the pictures, the language. And I want to point out again the language, because it uses linguistics, natural language processing, to kind of determine how it's going to respond to you. And then not to mention the algorithm piece too, of like all the time that it spends with you and kind of going through. So for that, keep that all in mind as we go through these. So these things that I mentioned, again, the chat AI, these things do not make a mixture for what we are needing to hear. They make a mixture for maybe what we want to hear. And I wanted to point that out because I did all that sharing about, these spiritual coaches through AI and these different things that are coming up. And I wanted to highlight that because that is important. So I'm going to share with you, how could we use it? How could we use it as a supportive tool while still working on our own selves, for peeling back the layers and for, not having it be this thing that we're looking to for answers, not looking externally. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. Just a roundabout way of saying it, but we're not looking outside of ourselves for the answers. We're using it as a supportive tool while working on ourselves. Okay. So a few different things that I wanted to share with this as a practice. One is I decided to try 2 different chat bots. And one of those is Deepak Chopra. He has a chat bot that's called deepakchopra.ai. And this was something that he co-founded right after he had launched his book last year. He did this AI through cyberhuman.ai. And the reason I had shared about his book too is because if I haven't read the book, but the book that he released happens to be about digital dharma is what it's called. And it happens to be about technology and expanding your awareness in the spiritual sense using technology too. So it was no surprise that he, released this AI as well and launched this whole AI thing. So I decided to go ahead and try to use that for this practice that I want to put into place to share with you guys. I did give it some prompts. I wasn't super excited with the information that came back, which was a bummer because I was really excited to use this particular one. I was like, oh, Deepak has like his own AI. This is awesome. But I wasn't too excited about what came back for information. So then what I did is I went online and I went to a leaderboard for chat apps, and I looked at all the different ones and looked at what was the leading one. And across the board on the score level of everything, ChatGPT was at the top. Now, I do not have a paid subscription because I don't use ChatGPT that often to use or purchase a monthly subscription or however it is. So with that being said, I'm using the free version. I fed it some prompts and I'm going to go through those with you. So the first thing that I did is I asked ChatGPT, I said, could you please provide 10 innovative tools that can be added to a daily practice to help one grow spiritual intelligence? Now we are going to go through those 10 and we're going to discuss them and kind of go through what it came back with. So the very first one is mindful journaling apps. These are digital journals that prompt daily reflections on gratitude, purpose, and spiritual insights, fostering self-awareness and growth. Now, I want to stop here because I do have a couple things just to mention on the digital apps. One is, I think this is great for if you are on the go. I personally think it's extremely beneficial for people to do pen to paper. I think that it's easier to kind of get lost in the writing, and it allows you the opportunity, if you're looking to grow in channeling, this is a great way to do it, but also to get lost in what emotions come up versus like if you're typing, it just feels like there's a little bit more of a disconnect there for me. So maybe not for everybody, but that's just my 2 cents on that. Also, the other part of that is you are connected to a phone or some sort of device. And I think if we kind of limit that time, that's great as well. So mindful journaling apps are one of the answers that I came back with. Number 2 is guided meditations with biofeedback. And these are biofeedback devices that you actually wear. So it's wearable tech. It then provides you in real time feedback on the meditation process of how deep did you get in your meditations and so forth. So for me, I think this could be helpful to do on maybe a monthly basis. This is not something that I would do regularly. The meditations, yes, I would, set up a daily practice. The biofeedback device for the guided meditation, that I don't think we need to do like regularly. I think that like a monthly thing or kind of like a check-in point would be good just to kind of see where you're at. But let's read on and see what else is here. So then it has virtual reality spiritual retreats. And these are immersive VR experiences that it's suggesting for sacred skates and spiritual journeys. So this one I'm going to say is a hard pass for me. I really think it's important for us to stay grounded and in the present moment and to really I think it's just really important for us to have these kind of experiences, like the spiritual experiences, uh, to have our soul experience an immersive experience, not in just like the virtual, it's only going to be up here, right? In your head, versus if you're experiencing it on all of your sense of smell, your sense of touch, your sense of hearing, your sense of smell, you're having your intuitive light up, like all these different things. I think that that's a much different experience than, putting on some headgear and having a VR trip to some sort of spiritual journey. Um, the next one is AI powered personal spiritual coach. Okay, I had to mention it because that was number 4, but you already know where I stand on that. I really think it's important for us to use our discernment here and work with a live person versus using AI. So this is one that I would stay clear of, but let's go ahead and look at the other ideas for support. So number 5 is sacred soundscapes and binaural beat apps. And I actually love this idea. I think this is a great tool to have to help support you as part of your daily practice. And so, yeah, that's a plus for me. Augmented reality AR rituals and symbols. And these are essentially AR apps that overlay spiritual symbols and rituals into your environment, making daily practices more engaging. And I think this one's a fun one too. So I would keep this one in. Daily affirmations and intention reminders. These are smart notifications that prompt you to set intention or recite affirmations aligned with your spiritual growth. And to me, this is one that really depends on the person, because I think when you have too many smart notifications, actually for anybody, like if you have too many notifications going off, that's definitely going to goof your nervous system up and you're going to feel a little off balance there. But the other part of this too is some people don't work as well with having like reminders go off. I speak from experience from the other end of this, where I'm a girl that I tend to have a little too many reminders go off on my phone. And I have like day planners galore. So that is one option, is doing a daily affirmation and intention reminders with smart notifications. Now, this next one is community-based spiritual challenge platforms, online communities that offer daily or weekly challenges encouraging shared growth. And I think this is a great idea too. This allows for us to connect with other people. So absolutely. One thing that I really thought of when I was reading this is there are so many different Facebook groups out. And I know Facebook is kind of like, it's super ancient and old, but it is helpful for the Facebook group settings. And I haven't seen any other platforms yet. Maybe if you know of one, let me know, because I'd love to know about it. But I haven't seen any other platforms that offer this, where you can meet up online as a community and ask questions, discuss things and such. I actually belong to way too many, and I need to at some point go through and sift through and kind of get rid of some. But I do have a couple that I am active in, and I find them to be extremely helpful to bounce ideas off of people. But then also, like, I have one that's an intuitive group, and it helps doing the exercises together and discussing things and sharing things. So let's read on. So number 9 is podcasts. And obviously, I love this one because what am I talking to you on and what am I doing? So, podcasts just like this one and just like the others on Awakening Airwaves, a channel that encourages application, self-reflection, and exercises of the spiritual teachings and the healing tools and all these different things. So this is a fantastic idea. Number 10, I'm going to mention this one and then we're going to roll right into it. But number 10 was a digital vision board platform. And I loved this when I read this. I have never actually used ChatGPT or any of these chat platforms for this, but I'm definitely going to check it out. So I was excited to read this one. So let's go ahead and go to the second one that I said I was going to give you an idea for, and that is this digital vision board platform. So I asked the prompt that I provided to ChatGPT is, how can I use AI for creating, boosting, and implementing gosh, if I could even talk, a manifesting board or vision board? So how can you use it for creating, boosting, and implementing? And that's important because you have all three, okay? Because it's not just creating your vision board, but also putting it into play and implementing it into your regular routine, because that's what's going to really help you keep your eye on the goal, okay? So what it came back with is number one, creating your vision board using an AI image generation tool, such as, I guess there's an app called Dolly. I have not checked it out yet, but I'm definitely going to. And Dolly is DALLE, and it allows you to create your desired images. I actually really liked this idea. I tend to use magazines usually. I go to Pinterest and create my own collage boards. I have used ChatGPT. Oh, wait, was it ChatGPT? Might have been Midjourney back when I was playing around with Midjourney. I don't know. But I had created an image at some point for one of my vision boards that had a very specific look to it for what I was trying to bring in and create. So I do love this idea because sometimes it's hard to find the images that you're looking for. So if you could create it, I think that's great. So that is one option for, creating your vision board. The second one that it mentioned for this is personalized motivational quotes and affirmations. And this one I just want to pause on for a minute, because this is where, when I was talking about using AI to inspire us, I think this is important. Yes, we could have it create the motivational, or affirmations or motivational quotes or whatever. However, what's going to pack more punch and be more powerful are your own words. So this is where you could use it kind of like to help maybe guide you or give you some ideas, but I would then use your own words for up on your vision board, your goal setting, whatever. Number three, boosting. So now we're talking about boosting that vision board, okay? Giving it some power, boosting your vision board. Once your vision board is created, AI can help you stay connected with the goals, boosting the power of manifesting through a goal tracking app like Notion or Trello. And these are basically helpful for helping you kind of break down the goals into smaller actionable steps. Now, if you are not familiar with manifesting, even if you are familiar with manifesting, I'm going to give a shout out to our girls over at Seek and Surrender, because there is an excellent episode that they put out on manifesting, and they really did a great job at explaining how you could break things down into these smaller manageable goals and how you could apply it. And I really loved their share on that. So go check that episode out if you haven't already. Now, number four is you can use AI-based habit tracking apps like Coach.me. And then the other one is, I believe it's pronounced Habitica. I should have totally looked that up. I didn't. I am so sorry. I probably totally hacked that. But to help reinforce positive behaviors, align with vision boards, suggesting improvements based on your past actions. So basically, it looks at what you have been doing. So it looks at kind of your patterns, if you will, through your day. And then how that aligns with your vision board. And then it'll make suggestions. So it's either saying, okay, maybe you tweak this area and change this, or maybe you go in this direction, or this is good, keep up the positive behavior in this area, okay? Number five, you can use AI-powered visualization tools like Replica. Now, if you remember, Replica was the one that you could create your own conscious spiritual companion. They had people use it for, like friendship companions. And there was like all these different things that you could use for it. Well, what it suggested was using replica to get in the mindset of your future version self. And I thought that was really interesting. That was something I had never considered. I might actually play around with this a little bit and check it out. And if you guys do, I'm curious to hear about. So definitely hit me up and let me know. But you could essentially create a future version of yourself as if you already achieved these goals, achieved whatever is on your manifesting board, vision board, goal setting board, whatever you want to call it, and be able to interact with it to help you keep that self belief of heading that direction that you have it, that you're going, that you're thriving, that you're successful, and all these things. So I thought those were really interesting applications and things that you could use to integrate into a manifesting board or vision board. Same with the spiritual tools that we talked about with the first 10, but obviously, you know that it wasn't 10 for me. I knocked out a lot. I was like, probably drop this one. So um, now I wanted to share a couple ways that I have used it in my practice. One way that I have used it in my practice is I belong to a group where a group of us do regular practices for like intuitive gifts and kind of growing in that direction. And unfortunately, it's really hard to get together, because people get busy. We all have different schedules. We're spread out all over the place. So I wanted to use ChatGPT to look up how could I create a 30-day calendar for myself to have these daily exercises that I could do where I could work independently on my psychic gifts, my intuitive gifts, and kind of grow in these areas. And so I used it for that. And that has been actually really helpful. It's something that I have on hand by my desk, and I occasionally will go to it. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I, go a different direction. But that is one way that I've used it. Another way that I've used it, and I want to share this as well, because this is kind of playing in a little bit to what we're talking about, but also a little different, is I have definitely used it with food. And what I mean by that is I had it create a food, how would I describe it? I don't want to call it food diet. I hate the word diet. I shouldn't say hate, but I don't like the word diet. How about food conscious plan for myself, as far as eating foods that were more in alignment for energy work. And so I had it kind of create a list of, morning time, having these items, and, here's why, working with these things, for example, starting off the day with something that is reflecting the solar energy. So starting off with some berries, or starting off with something that's, exposed to the sun type thing, and then having some lemon water and, these different things. And so I kind of got into that a little bit. And that's been actually something that I've referenced a few times. But again, going back to the discernment piece, I like to cross-reference and look at everything. So even though I use that, I also did some of my own research on certain food items and certain things, because I want to also have it come into play with something else that I have been dealing with health reasons and why and whatnot. So that is a helpful way that you could use it. So these are just a few of the tips. So like I said, do I see a place for AI for us and a way that we could use it in a positive light? Absolutely. Should it be the be all? No, it should not. So don't use it as like a spiritual coach or anything like that, but definitely like utilize it and learn and get to know it, because I think it is here to stay, and we are going to be seeing a lot more of different AI, things pop up. So wrapping up, where does this kind of leave us? That it's coming in hot. When I say it's coming in hot, I mean, like I said, it's moving at a rapid rate, guys. It could definitely stimulate that spiritual guidance for sure. It can offer tools for mindfulness, like we talked about, and it could help us ask those better questions. So asking those questions that could then help us in other areas. And like I said, accompanying us on our spiritual paths, accompanying us on our healing path, but not the source. So if you are using AI regularly, I would just say, be mindful and use your discernment. And remember, a large role of your journey is that going inward and not going outside of yourself, right? Not looking to something else for the answers. So, thank you so much for joining me today. I am really excited to hear from you about what you think about this topic because, like I said, it's coming up in so many different conversations and groups I belong to. And it just had me a little curious because I hear how people are using it and I'm like, huh. So I'm really curious to think or hear what your thoughts are on this. Um, Hit me up on Soleil to Moon, and that's SOLEIL, and then the number 2 Moon at Instagram. Or if you want to go to my website, it's soleil-to-moon.com. And then Conscious Consumption can be found on Awakening Airwaves at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. So check us out there. Until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, connect it, and consume with consciousness. Thank you so much. We'll see you again.